Okay, this is the quiz 7172 review. The quiz is tomorrow, and this is very similar to the questions you will see tomorrow. So the first four ask you to perform the indicated operation. Remember, you're multiplying two binomials, so we can use that word FOIL, first, outer, inner, last, to help us multiply these binomials. First, so I have 3x times x gives me 3x squared. 3x times negative 3 gives me minus 9x. 2 times x gives me plus 2x. And 2 times negative 3 gives me minus 6. I'm going to combine like terms. Remember, if you use FOIL, they'll be the two center terms. So 3x squared minus 7x minus 6. That's your answer. Next one, again, first, x times x gives me x squared. X times negative 9 gives me minus 9x. 9 times x gives me plus 9x. 9 times negative 9 gives me minus 81. When I combine like terms here, those two center terms will cancel. I get x squared minus 81. And that's your answer. Number 3, first, 4x times x gives me 4x squared. 4x times negative 3 gives me minus 12x. 1 times x gives me plus x. 1 times negative 3 gives me minus 3. Again, combine like terms in the center. You should have 4x squared minus 11x minus 3. That's your answer. Again, foiling the first two. First, 2x times 2x gives me 4x squared. 2x times negative 3 gives me minus 6x. 3 times 2x gives me plus 6x. And 3 times negative 3 gives me minus 9. Again, combine like terms, and I will have 4x squared minus 9, and that will be my answer. So remember, foiling, first, outer, inner, last. Next, we're going to factor. Factor is the reverse of foiling, so we're going to factor and solve. We're looking for the values of x that make the equation true. So we're looking for the values of x that make the equation true. To do that, remember, I'm going to look to factor this trinomial into two binomials. If I want to get this first term, x squared, I would have to have x times x. If I want to get two terms that multiply together to equal negative 56 and add to positive 1, right here, it would be plus 8 and minus 7. So if you think about that, if you FOIL that back, you would have x squared minus 7x plus 8x minus 56 equals 0. So you get x squared plus x minus 56 equals 0. When you FOIL it back, you see that that's what you started with, so you know your factoring is correct. Then you know that x plus 8 equals 0 or x minus 7 equals 0. So when x is equal to negative 8 or when x is equal to 7, those are the two values of x that would make this original equation true. Number 6, again, we're looking for two binomials that when we multiply them together, we get 3x squared minus 11x minus 4. So if I'm looking at this first term, I need to have two things that I'm going to multiply together that will give me 3x squared. The only possibilities will be 3x and x. Then, when I look at the last term, I'm looking for the things that would multiply to give me negative 4. That could be minus 4 and positive 1 and minus 4, or negative 2 and 2. This is the guess and check method, so you could simply substitute in whichever you think is the best guess. Since I'm looking to get a negative 11, I know that multiplying by the -2 and +2 probably isn't going to get me there. So I'm going to put the +1 here and the -4 here. I'm going to eliminate that choice. Let's try this choice. So I have 3x times x. That would give me 3x squared. 3x times -4 gives me -12. 1 times x gives me plus x, and then 1 times -4 gives me -4. When I combine like terms, I have 3x squared minus 11x minus 4 equals 0. And that's the equation I started with. So I know that I have factored it correctly. So then I look at my two factored terms, and I know that either 3x plus 1 equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. So solve each of these for x. So when x is equal to -1/3 and when x is equal to 4. Those are the two solutions. Again, if I substitute those into that original equation, that would make that original equation true. So the expression on the left would be equal to 0. Number 7. Again, I'm going to use the guess and check method. So I have two binomials that when I multiply those two together, I get x squared minus 6x plus 9. The only way to get x squared would be x times x. How do I get positive 9 and a -6? Well, when I multiply -3 and -3, I will get a positive 9. My center terms would be -3x and -3x. So let's FOIL that back and check. X squared minus 3x minus 3x plus 9 equals 0. So x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. And of course, that means I have solved it correctly. Now this time, I have when x minus 3 equals 0, these are the same. So there's only one solution, and that is when x equals 3. So when x is equal to 3, this equation would be true. X squared minus 6x plus 9 would be equal to 0. Number 8, again, I'm going to use guess and check. So what I have to multiply to get 2x squared, I would have to multiply 2x and x in order to get 2x squared. Then, when I look at what will give me -4, I either have to have -4 and 1, -1 and 4, or -2 and 2. Those are the factors of -4. So if I think about it, if I tried -2, so let's try -2 and +2. -2 and +2. When I FOIL that back, I get 2x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. When I combine these, I have 2x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals 0. That's not what I started with, so we can cross that out because that's not going to be one of the options we want to choose. So now let's take a look at the options we have left. Let's choose the first one. Let's say I have -4 and +1. When I FOIL this, I'll have 2x squared plus 2x minus 4x minus 4. Again, when we look, we're going to get a -2x in the center, and that's not going to be what we started with. So let's try again this time. I'm going to move the -4x here and the +1 here. So when I FOIL these back, I'm going to get 2x squared minus 8x plus x minus 4 equals 0. So 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 equals 0. And I check, and holy cow, that's not right either. I have one thing that I can see that I can change, and that is if I make this negative and I make this positive, then what happens when I FOIL that back? I will get 2x squared plus 8x minus x minus 4 equals 0. 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. And I check it, and that's what I started with. So that is the correct factored form. Then I know that 2x minus 1 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. So when x is equal to 1/2, or when x is equal to -4, those two values will make that original equation true. And you can substitute them back in and make sure that that is true. The next thing you need to do is make sure you can solve the proportions. Remember, in the proportions, you're going to cross multiply. So when you cross multiply these, you should have 4x equals 60. 5 times 12 is 60. So x is equal to 15. On the next one, when you cross multiply, remember to add the parentheses so that you distribute that denominator across those two terms. So I have 2 times x plus 1 equals 3 times x minus 4. So I get 2x plus 2 equals 3x minus 12. Solve this, I'm going to get x is equal to 14. So if I substitute that answer back into that original problem, what's on the left should be equal to what's on the right. So I get 14 plus 1 over 3 is equal to 14 minus 4 over 2. So 15 is to 3 as 10 is to 2, and that's correct. Next one's a little tougher. Add the parentheses. This one actually requires a lot more steps. We're going to first cross multiply. So we have 5x times x plus 2 is equal to x plus 6 times 2x plus 1. On the left-hand side, you only need to distribute. So you have 5x times x gives me 5x squared. 5x plus 2 gives me plus 10x. Now we're going to have to FOIL on the left-hand side. So x times 2x gives me plus 2x squared. X times 1 gives me plus x. 6 times 2x gives me plus 12x. 6 times 1 gives me plus 6. Then remember, you want to combine like terms before you start adding and subtracting across the equal sign. So you will have 5x squared plus 10x equals 2x squared plus 13x plus 6. Then subtract all of the terms on the right to the left-hand side. So I will have minus 2x squared minus 13x minus 6. Over here I'll have minus 2x squared minus 13x minus 6. Over here, these will all cancel, and I will have a 0. On this side, I will have 3x squared minus 3x minus 6. Remember, you can make the terms that you're working with smaller if there's a greatest common factor. The greatest common factor, if it's a number, will not affect your x-intercepts, just the maximum or minimum value of the parabola. So I can factor out a 3. That gives me x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. This factors to x minus 2 times x plus 1. So that factored form is 3 times x minus 2 times x plus 1. So then I'm left to say, well, when will this term equal 0? When will this term equal 0? When x minus 2 equals 0, so when x is equal to 2, and when x plus 1 equals 0, or x is equal to -1. Those are the two values that if I substitute them back into that original equation, that would make that original equation true. Let's take a look. So if I use when x is 2. I substitute in a 2 for x. I get 2 plus 2 over 2 times 2 plus 1 is equal to 2 plus 6 over 5 times 2. So I get 4 is to 5 as 8 is to 10. If I reduced 8/10, it would be 4/5, and you can see that the answer would be true. Number 12, find the value of an x and y for the extended ratio. Now remember, you can't solve this the way it is. You have to set up two proportions in order to solve this. So pick one of the proportions that just has the numbers in it. You want to have just one variable in each of these proportions. So when I have 2x plus 4 over 21 equals 4/7, the only variable I'm looking at there is x. The next one will be 4/7 is equal to y plus 3 over 14. So in the second one, the only variable I'm looking at is y. Cross multiply, 7 times 2x plus 4 is equal to 4 times 21. So I get 14x plus 28 is equal to 84. Subtract the 28 from both sides. I will get 14x is equal to 56. So x is equal to 4. There's my value for x. Come over to the one for y. Cross multiply, 4 times 14 is equal to 7 times y plus 3. So you get 56 is equal to 7y plus 21. So 35 is equal to 7y. So y is equal to 5. Okay? They're pretty easy to do. Just remember you have to break them down into two separate proportions. Number 13, consecutive angles of a parallelogram are in the ratio of 2 to 4. What is the measure of each angle? So remember, if you have a parallelogram, consecutive angles would be A and B, or B and C, C and D, or A and D. And the consecutive angles, for example, the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C equals 180. If these are in the ratio of 2 to 4, that means 2 parts go to B and 4 parts go to C. So it's actually broken into 6 parts. If you want to set up a proportion to solve this, you would say the number of parts in B, which is 2, is to the whole 6 as x is to 180. Then for C, 4 is to 6 as y is to 180. You can cross multiply, you get 360 equals 6x. So x equals 60. So the measure of angle B in this case would be 60. Here when I cross multiply, I'm going to get 720 equals 6y. So y is equal to 120, so the measure of angle C would be 120. Doesn't matter what you name them, as long as you see that one of the angles would be 60 and one of the angles would be 120. Number 14 is a system of equations. Set it up in the same way you would cross multiply any other ratio. So you get 3x is equal to y plus 3. Then 2 times x plus 1 equals 3 times y minus 1. So 2x plus 2 equals 3y minus 3. This is a system of equations. And you have two methods to solve that. You're going to use either substitution or elimination. In this case, because I have a leading coefficient on this y, substitution will work really well. So I'll just subtract the 3 from both sides and I will have 3x minus 3 equals y. And then I can substitute that value into the second equation where there's a y. So I will have 2x plus 2 equals 3 times 3x minus 3. That's simply taking the place of the y. And then don't forget you still have that minus 3. So I have 2x plus 2 equals 9x minus 9 minus 3. Combine like terms, so 2x plus 2 equals 9x minus 12. Subtract the 2x from both sides, and then add the 12 to both sides. And then x is equal to 2. Again, if you substitute that back in, you could check your answer. And I think on this quiz tomorrow, you'll probably have time to do that for many of these. Okay, next one, number 15. Given stray is similar to bundle, determine the similarity ratio. Remember that the number in the numerator is the first one listed. The number in the denominator is going to be the second one listed. So we're looking for two sides that actually have numbers. So ST and BU. They are the corresponding sides that we're going to use for this similarity ratio. So ST is to BU, 5 is to 3. So now we want to find x. So we're looking for x. Right here are the numbers we're going to use. So to find x, we're going to say 5 is to 3, or ST is to BU, as x is to 4, SY is to BL, because they are corresponding. Cross multiply, 20 equals 3x. So x is equal to 6 2/3. The next one you're looking for is y. So again, you're going to set up that ratio 5 is to 3, that's our similarity ratio, as y is to 2. Cross multiply, 10 equals 3y. So 10/3 equals y. So y is equal to 3 1/3. You can leave it as 10/3. That's not a problem. The next one then is z. Z is here, so this is the corresponding side for z. So again, I have 5 is to 3 as 10 is to z. So 5z equals 30, so z equals 6. Z equals 6. Okay, those should be fairly easy to do. And finally, we have just a couple of word problems. Remember, we're comparing like quantities. So if we sampled 20 employees from V&B Bank, and we found that 7 of 20 employees are between the ages of 20 and 30, then there are X of 13,220 employees that are between the ages of 20 and 30. Remember, this is our sample. This is our actual. Our similarity ratio from our sample is 7 to 20. We want to know how many of the 13,220 employees are between 20 and 30. So we can cross multiply and we should get that X is equal to 4,627 employees. Number 17, about 56 of every 700 picture frames put together in an assembly line have broken pieces of glass. If 60,000 picture frames are assembled each month, about how many of those will have broken glass? So you sampled picture frames, 56 out of the 700 picture frames you sampled were broken. So how many of the 60,000 picture frames produced will have broken glass? When you cross multiply, you should get that X is equal to 4,800 picture frames with broken glass. Again, the quiz is tomorrow. Questions will be very similar to this review. Take a few minutes and review the worksheet, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice evening.